All right, man. Today is Tuesday. It is August 9th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. As always, I'm here with Chief. Chief, how are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing great, too. I'm excited for today's topic. It is a definite blast from the past that I feel like a lot of people should remember because it was like just that sweet spot internet era.
I would say that this was almost to the end of Internet 1.0.
Yes.
You know, like where there was a pure, and maybe this helped contribute to kind of the end of that age of innocence and wildness on the internet. Mm-hmm. And this is the Kony 2012 story.
Kony 2012. 10
years later.
10 years later.
Remember
exactly.
Like it was yesterday. Pretty close.
Yeah. I think it happened in like April or
March and April.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, but like it's 10 years regardless.
Yep.
So yeah, it's really, to what I can recall, like one of the first like greatest like guerrilla
huge
online social media campaigns.
Yep. I searched my own Twitter because I was like nervous that I would have been one of these people, hashtag Kony 2012. And to my credit,
you did not.
I've had the app, I think, since 2011. So I was definitely active on it in spring of 2012. And I'm happy to say I was not on it.
And to be clear, we're giggling about the whole media campaign. Like obviously Joseph Kony, from what I understand, is a bad dude.
Bad guy.
Very bad guy.
Yeah.
So we're not laughing at that because that's very serious, and I'm sure we're going to get into that. Mm-hmm. But before we do, though, Chief, I do want to talk about our good friends at Miller Lite because summer is all about outdoor cookouts and backyard get-togethers, which means plenty of Miller Lite.
Yeah, I'm going to the smokeout today. I know for sure. So we're recording this on a Thursday. I know for sure the way that I'm getting loose and getting ready is with a Miller Lite in my hand. I'm going to have a cowboy hat on. I'm going to straighten up that bolo tie. My next action will be to crack that Miller Lite and pour it down because that is, to me, the summer beer. And drinking outside, country music, like that's Americana, and I cannot wait.
Yeah, it's awesome. And Miller Lite, actually, they're partnering up with Vienna Beef this month, the most authentic Chicago hot dog brand. And they're sponsoring happy hours at selected bars and restaurants in the Chicagoland area through August 23rd. And the first 500 guests will receive a free Vienna Beef Chicago-style hot dog. At the happy hour, Chicagoans also have the chance to win hot swag items like prizes, sports, and concert tickets, koozies, pint glasses, and more importantly, stain-resistant shirts. So people can eat their hot dogs freely with no worries about mustard stains. You can visit MillerLite.com/Chicago style to learn more about the event details and retailer information. They're actually going to be at one of my local bars tomorrow.
Which one?
Coach's on Northwest Highway.
Yeah, I've seen you tweet about that place.
Yeah, great Northwest side spot. They got like their gimmick is like they have Coach's quotes all over the place. Regardless, they got a bunch of great quotes up there. I mean, you name it, they have it. Go check that out. Northwest Highway. And you could check it all out, MillerLite.com/Chicago style. And next time you're getting ready to enjoy cold ones with your crew, go to MillerLite.com/Redline to find the delivery options near you, or you can pick up some Miller Lite pretty much anywhere that they sell beer. It's Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. All right. Kony 2012.
Kony 2012. Obama's president. Are you still in college?
I am.
Young Harry is getting on the internet. He was an activist trying to take down Kony. It was everywhere. Yeah. Okay. So this really kind of came to the forefront. No one knew who the fuck Joseph Kony was, except for this one guy who is this kind of product of, he's like a product of parents who were like these theater kind of Christian fundamentalist people. And his name is Jason Russell. And Jason Russell was the guy who put out this video. He put out the video on March 5th, 2012, and it was produced by a charity called Invisible Children. And it was the Kony 2012. And they said, like, it really pulled at your heartstrings with some of the images they showed. They showed his kid. I'm trying to make the world a better place. I can't imagine, my son someday being like, abducted and turned into a child soldier, because that's what Kony was. He was like this war criminal. There was always, it's less so now, well, I shouldn't say that, but there's always civil wars going on in Africa and these different, because whatever, we should probably talk about that at some point. But he wanted to create awareness about Joseph Kony and all the heinous crimes that he was committing in Uganda and really elsewhere. But his focus was primarily on Uganda because he took a trip there in like 2003 when he was 19, and he saw a village get raided while he was on that trip. And he was like, what the fuck? What's going on here? And then he came back and he's like, I'm going to do something about this. So he spent like the next 9 years from 2003 to 2012 trying to come up with plans to raise awareness. And that's where he kind of gets accused of maybe a little bit of like clout chasing a little bit. Like he was going to profit from and make his career about this horrific event. And he was, people accused him of that. He said he had altruistic intentions, but he created this video and their goal was to make people know about Joseph Kony. And they had a stated goal that they wanted to have 500,000 views on this YouTube video by the end of 2012. They had 500,000 views in 3 hours. 3 hours. So talk about like the most viral thing ever. Justin Bieber's tweeting it. He was probably about Harry's age at the time. You had all like, it just got in that internet machine and churned out like insane views. So I said 500,000 in 3 hours. They had 100 million views in a week. Okay. It was fucking Kony 2012 everywhere. And they had this charity connected to it, right? With links and things like that. The traffic from the YouTube link to the charity website crashed like repeatedly. And it got so much traffic and so many like email hits and things like that the company that was running their servers thought they were getting hacked. So they just took the whole thing offline while they investigated because it was getting that inundated with, pings and little donations and website hits. And it was just like, what the fuck is going on? And they're just these guys in like a server farm somewhere. They're not necessarily like, maybe not aware of how viral this is going. They're just looking at the data being like, this is like fucking what the hell? So, 500,000 in 3 hours, 100 million in a week, crashing everything. They raised $20 million for this Invisible Children charity in the aftermath of this video coming out. It was insane. And it was supposed to, like I said, to raise awareness about Joseph Kony, who was leading a group called the Lord's Resistance Army, or the LRA. And they were a group of, ragtag soldiers. I'm trying to think of this Netflix movie about a similar situation. But basically he was taking these, he would go, it's a Beast of No Nation. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Awesome movie. Cannot recommend.
It's a movie? It's not like a doc?
It's a movie from 2015, but it showcases what happens in these villages. And have you seen Blood Diamond? DiCaprio.
The Leo movie? The
Leo movie, yeah.
I'm aware of it. I haven't seen it though.
Okay, so both of those movies showcase the horrors of what happens when these people have like these child soldiers. So they come into this village, okay? They come into the villages armed, and they round up all the children, and they hold a gun to the children's head and said, if you don't shoot your parents, we're going to kill you. Okay, in front, the parents are like on the firing line, and the child's standing there with a machine gun, with a pistol to his head, and it's like your options are either you die or your parents die, and oftentimes they would be like, they shoot their parents, and we're talking kids who are like 6, 7, 8 years old. Okay, and those are the boys. The girls they would keep as sex slaves. Okay, so that's like how dark and horrible.
That's absurd.
This what was happening. So they would make all these raids, and then they would groom these child soldiers and kind of brainwash them. So you expose them to the trauma, and it's like, I'm in charge of you now. Your parents were full of shit. You would just attack the parents, how terrible they were. Look how poor you were. Your parents were losers. We made you strong. We made you powerful. Look at what you're doing with this rifle in your hand. They're like, this is how men are supposed to be. And they would give them drugs, and they would give them, weapons, and they would, when they're old enough, they would give them girls. And like, they get these kids who are like caught up in this. And then that's how they build their army, is through manipulation, abduction, manipulation. And then as these children grow older, they become these soldiers, and they're drug addicted, and they're all, on, different types of amphetamines and things like that. And if you've seen Black Hawk Down, like there's a little bit of that showcased in that movie as well. And it's just like that was their method. And so if you're, and it was at a time, it was happening so much that, you know, you would, it sounds like they would have a similar situation on a smaller scale to the way our country is laid out, where you have a city with suburbs, but you would have a town, like a town center, like smaller numbers, with little villages sprinkled around. There were like farming villages and things like that. And it got to the point where it was so dangerous that at the end of daylight every day, all the children, we're talking like into the thousands from all the surrounding villages, would come into the town and sleep together where they could be protected away from the parents. So that's something that was like their reality every day. You can't sleep in your own bed at night. You have to sleep on this blanket in this, like, you know, it looked like a cement block of some kind, like a big open room. I don't know if it was like a gymnasium or something for the local school, but those are the images that I saw, where you have to sleep here because sleeping in your home is too dangerous, because the LRA might come and snatch you up and make you murder your parents.
Jesus,
so like that's
horrible.
Like horrible. And that's what this guy, Jason Russell, was trying to shed light on. And he had been trying for 9 years. So he came back and, you know, I think, I can't remember the exact year he started this, but he had like these like little bracelets that he was like, you know, I guess I can't, you know, they had a saying on them, and they're like these black kind of woven things, but it was just like, you know, that was a big thing at the time. Like anything you support, like it started with Live Strong. Like it was like, you know, you support something, here's a fucking wristband to let everybody know what cause you're supporting. It was like that was a weird phase we went through.
Well, I mean, it makes sense though.
I remember I was at Berkshire in prep school, and we had this kid who, I couldn't stand this kid. I'm glad I can't remember his name, because I hated him so much I probably would say it, but I can't remember his name. But he had both of his wrists. He had like 8 or 9 wristbands on both wrists. And he's like, I'm for, you know, the Democratic Party. I'm for...
Yeah, but that's to the extreme.
But like, it's just like, and this is a term that was coined around this Kony thing, was slacktivism. Like you're a slacker about your activism.
Yeah,
you'll hit a like on the and a share button on this Kony video, or you'll wear a wristband about something, and it's
but then there's a whole argument like where, you know,
it worked for Live Strong.
Yeah, and Live Strong almost became like a fashion thing too.
That totally. Yeah,
totally. Like people just, I had one, just I didn't like. I
don't think I had one. But it became like, it's not because I didn't want one. It became like impossible to get them.
Yeah,
and
then it became like they were everywhere. Like they were for a buck at Dick's,
right?
Like at the checkout line.
They would sell out quickly.
Yeah.
Though. So, but that was a thing, and so he had like a wristband thing. And then, do you remember like the video that came out? This is probably
the regular Kony video.
No. He had like a high school musical type of thing. It reminded me of like the Always Sunny scene, like the Nightman, where they're like performing.
No, I don't remember that. I just remember the original.
I'll have to find it and blog it because when this comes out, because it was like this guy Jason Russell, and he's probably in his like early 20s at this point, and the opening scene is like, we got to talk about Kony to help save these children in Uganda. And he goes, well, and then somebody, well, what are we going to do about it? And it's like, what we always do about it, of course, dance. And they like did this whole like orchestrated like musical about, and like no, like there wasn't like a joke at all. They're like, we're going to raise awareness about what's going on with the LRA and Kony in Uganda through our
dancing,
through like a fake Glee. Like that, remember that show Glee? Yeah. Like it looked like Glee. But it was, and like the haircuts of the time, I saw it like doing the research for this, utterly preposterous and outright hilarious. And the fact that they're dead serious is just like, wow, these people have like no place trying to solve any issues ever.
Hey, let's take another quick break here because I want to talk to you guys about letting loose, and you could let loose going to a concert, a sporting event, whatever it is. Use the Game Time app because the Game Time app is the exclusive ticketing partner of Barstool Sports. Game Time is a ticketing app that makes it easier than ever to score last-minute deals on tickets to sports, concerts, and shows, and they guarantee the lowest price. They crack the code on how to score deals on last-minute tickets, and you can find MLB tickets for under $15 all in on Game Time. Yankees tickets as low as $14, Red Sox $14, Mets $13, Braves $14, Cubs $12. You name your team, Game Time has the hookup on deals for you to get out to the ballpark. Ton of other concerts going on. There's definitely big events coming up before Labor Day as well. So go check out the Game Time app. The best part is you get $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time. Go to the account tab to create a login and redeem code DOGWALK for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Download Game Time. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's hop back in to the show.
So, and that was really, this guy Jason Russell was really trying to, like, you can accuse him of different things, but he was really trying to raise awareness for this Uganda thing, and he tried a lot of different ways over a period of 8 to 9 years after seeing what happened there in 2003 before he came up with this charity. And like, he was trying to be a filmmaker, so he's like, I'm going to make this film, and he put it out, and that's the one that in 2012 that went super viral. And but you know, like with anything, if you go super viral, you get some pushback. Okay. And because he was so viral, like, it was Anderson Cooper was talking about him. The View was talking about him. He had to sit down with Oprah. He was, Fox News, like all the news stations picked up this story, and they started picking apart this guy. They were like, oh, well, he's actually gay. So they were saying, like, this is 2012 where, I feel like, I guess that was just like allowed to be,
which
like,
is crazy to think about.
Crazy. 10 years ago, but it's like, he's a married guy, but like the like legitimate news sources were out there being like, well, you might be gay. Yeah. And it was like, wait, what?
Like the Piazza treatment?
Kind of, yeah. And it was like, let's discredit this guy. And there was like, you're basically a warmonger.
That's crazy.
Like, you're trying to, what do you want? You an interventionist? And because, the appetite for, we had been through, a lot of struggles with Iraq and Afghanistan. Are you trying to drum up, like, sending troops? And he's like, no, like, I'm just trying, like that kind of thing. And he raised all this money. Where's the money going? How is it helping? What are you doing with that money? Are you keeping the money?
And for people, we should say too, like you talked about, the video got 500K in 3 hours.
Yeah.
If you're a little on the younger side listening to the show and you're like, oh, wow, how did this guy do this? It was one of those things where Kony 2012 was so widespread on Twitter that it was impossible not to pique your curiosity.
It was everywhere.
Yeah.
It was Facebook.
Like, I watched it and I was just like, I don't know what the fuck this is. And I was like a fresh 21-year-old. Yeah. And I'm like, I wasn't really into like the whole, scene like that of like doing good. And I was like, oh shit, I got to check this out.
Yeah. I mean, like, it was literally crazy. Everyone watched it.
Yeah.
We should see how many views it has now. I'm sure it's still up.
Here, I'll check it out. But you were saying about, they were asking him what they were doing about the funding and everything.
And he didn't really have a ton of answers, but he was doing like this, and he like turned this, how viral that went into like a speaking tour. So he was like, trying to raise more money and more awareness, and maybe, a little bit of self-aggrandization about, so he's like, yeah, I'm taking the red out of New York, and then I'm flying to Miami after my speech there. And he's like, he said he gave like 48 speeches in, 17 days across the country, something like that. And it got to the point where he became so famous himself that his wife was like, hey, he felt like he couldn't go outside, and people were both like coming up to him, like thanking him. And then there were a lot of people being like hypercritical of him, and news outlets were hypercritical of him. And he became like a paparazzi target for a while. And so he's like, let's get out of here. They lived in LA or somewhere in Southern California, but let's get out of here. And they're like, let's take a little family vacation to Palm Springs. We'll just chill by the pool. Paparazzi found him there. So then he locked himself and his wife and kids basically in their hotel room for the duration of the stay. And then he had a mental breakdown from all like the attention, criticism, probably it got out of his control. Like, he wanted to have 500,000 views in a year, and that's probably manageable. 100 million views in a week and all the attention everywhere
That's what I got, 100 in a week?
100 million in a week.
Then I wonder if this is the real one, but this is from March 5th, 2012. And it appears to be the original one. It has 103 million. I don't know if that's possible, though.
That seemed only 3 million after the first week. That's what all the numbers said. 100 million. It was 100 million in 6 days, to be precise.
And I Googled like the original. I don't know. Okay. But regardless, it's a lot.
An insane amount. And who knows if it was like if they're counting other platforms and stuff too. Yeah. And but anyway, so he like literally lost his mind. So he said after the thing in Palm Springs, they went home and he was like, let's just go to the movies. He said he went to the Lorax, the animated, I think it's Pixar. He went to Lorax with his wife and kid. And
Dr. Seuss, I think.
Yeah. Right, but I think it was made into a movie by Pixar.
Regardless.
Yeah, either way. And he said like the Lorax characters were like talking to him about Kony and what he has to stop. He has to get Kony. And like part of that whole campaign was Kony Day was going to be 420. So you had all these people all over. Like, so the video drops March 5th and they're like, we're going to make 420 like Kony Day all over the world. We're going to, plaster posters, this and that. And so there was like the build up to this day. Okay. And he's getting all this criticism and pushback and people are calling him a fraud and all sorts of other things. And it's the Lorax thing. He's like, the characters are talking to him. Like, he's not on drugs. Characters are talking to him because he's not sleeping. He's like losing his mind. And then TMZ got a video of him having a mental breakdown outside of a house in San Diego where he's buck ass naked, not a thread of clothing anywhere on him, just pacing around like the block. And I think he was living in San Diego. So just pacing around the block, gesturing with his hands kind of wildly, talking to nobody, yelling. And so somebody like took the video, sold it to TMZ for 30 grand. And police come, they don't arrest him. They take him to the hospital. He had been accused, and I think we were going around the room before the show, of jerking off in public, like lewd behavior. Like, people had been accusing him of that after the TMZ video came out. But police said that wasn't the case. Eyewitnesses said that wasn't the case. He was just marching around naked.
That's such a Mandela effect because people, for whatever reason, have that in their head that they think that happened.
Totally. I remember something like that. I was like, did he get in trouble for something worse? I thought it was something worse.
Indecent exposure or something.
Yeah. But I thought it was like something with kid. Like I had whatever.
Turns out that's not true.
Not true. So, but he had to be in the hospital for, I think it was like 2 weeks, where he was just like, his brain was just not, like, it took him a long time to recover, and he like tried to break out and they had to sedate him. It was like this, he had like a real problem. And then, so like that had all the negative publicity. So by the time you had the 420 day, the international, we got to fucking take down Kony Day 2012, where they're going to put posters everywhere and, marches and things like that. They would be like, all right, New York City, we had 30,000 respondents online that they're going to show up. They had like 12 on the actual day. Chicago, 15,000 people said they're coming out. 11. Okay. Montreal, 18,000 people. 0. Okay, so like by the time like the actual day came about, you had all these people who were like, yeah, like, let's fucking get this Kony guy. And by the time it like rolled out, it was people like, the message had been discredited, because you had people in Uganda saying like, yeah, like, we know about Kony, like we're trying, but it's not like the threat that this guy is saying. And so you had people from like inside the Ugandan government saying like, this guy is like kind of sensationalizing what's going on. Like, Kony did those things that I talked about, but like by the time the Kony 2012 had happened, like his forces had been like severely limited. So it was like, he was not as big of a problem in 2012 as he was in 2003. And the guy, Jason Russell, was just like, he kind of all his eggs in that basket. So he wasn't going to pivot off of his movement, even though the people on the ground in Uganda were like, we've already taken a lot of steps to like, stop this guy. And there were reports that like he had actually left Uganda and he was in like the Central African Republic, and but they're still trying to catch him because he it's the ICC, which I think is the international. Like they're the ones who like would charge people with war crimes. Okay, they're still after him. Like he's still a wanted war criminal, but they like he's living in the jungle and he's not really like hitting places the way that he used to. So it was not deemed like they said like we don't really consider him as big of a threat anymore. And some of the other things that came out about like the Kony thing are just. Do you remember the Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie angle?
No.
Okay, so. I don't know if people know this, but
to the extent that I remembered was that it was crazy all over social media. Then there was a video that I watched, and there was this guy behind it, and then I thought he got in trouble for.
Well, he never got caught.
Yeah,
Kony never got caught. He's still on the loose.
No, I thought the
direct. Oh yeah. Okay, I got you. Yeah.
Russell got caught.
Yeah, Jason Russell. Yeah. So, and so the lead prosecutor for the ICC was this guy. I'm blanking on his name right now. I guess I didn't write it down in my notes. But he was like, I don't know, like a star, like an American star fucker kind of guy. Like he just glorified these people. So he was like, we got, and I think Angelina Jolie had like tweeted about the Kony 2012. So like through his connection, and she had, she has done a lot of work in Africa and adopted a lot of children from all sorts of different places, including Africa. So it's like she and Brad Pitt were like ripe, and this guy's thinking for a target, like to like, oh, let's see if we can get them involved. So they were gonna like set up this dinner where Angelina Jolie was going to get Kony to meet her for dinner somewhere and try to get him to stop. Was like this guy's plan. And they're just like, well, that's a fucking crazy plan. Like, no, like we're not like she didn't really entertain it, but it did come across her desk. And then so he pivoted off of that and reached out next to George Clooney and was like, hey, George Clooney has, or had, I don't know if he still has it, a satellite imaging company where he had invested in, and they would send their satellites into like Syria and like other places trying to find, look at these war crimes and have like an honest look at what was going on, because it's hard to get real information. So he's like, hey, like, can you, hey George, like, can you get behind this clause and send your satellites to take pictures and help us find where Kony is? And he never really responded, but somebody from his team was like, yo, he lives in the fucking jungle. We send our satellite over there, we're going to get pictures of the top of trees. Like, that's like, he was literally like, they were like, his forces were in the middle of this, I think that's still considered the Congo, like that deep into the rainforest. Like they'll do nothing, but it was just like, let's get another star. Then they had some like presentation, a humanitarian presentation about how to take down Kony and some of these other people. And they formed like this advisory board, and where they did this presentation, like the look of it, like the when you see pictures of the event, it looks kind of like a TED Talk. Who's sitting right next to him front row that he got to go there? Sean Penn. So like this guy who was like the head, like one of the lead prosecutors and lead investigators of the ICC, who latched onto this Kony thing, basically just trying to get an in with like the elites of Hollywood. It's like the offshoots of this thing were just insane.
Yeah, but it's perfectly believable, right?
Oh yeah. And I just thought it was funny. He was like, oh yeah, like let's see if we can get George Clooney, Angelina Jolie, and Sean Penn to get involved, and like so I can meet them and like take pictures with them.
Which like listen, if you're actually trying to make progress on a charitable effort, it works. Sure. Like look at all the people who donated the Barstool Fund that were famous, that like gave it some, like when Rodgers donated.
Absolutely.
And Gronk and shit like that. But
yeah, that definitely works. But it was at a time when the officials in Uganda were being like, hey, this guy's got 100 people, maybe. Yeah. Like it's not what it was 10 years ago. Yeah. So it was just like, it's one of those things where it's just like, it captivated so many people in the Western world $100 million. Okay. Captivated by this story that it got way out of control and like the truth got lost and nothing ever really happened. Like Kony, like he was no longer effective in his methods. The LRA, like his like top deputy, was the only guy that really ever got caught. I think he actually turned himself in, and so he was like prosecuted for war crimes. Kony's just, who knows where he is. Everyone thinks he's still alive to this day, but he's not like an active terrorist, like warlord the way he used to be. And it was just like, well, that was like a fucking wild couple of months, and on the internet, when it was just completely out of control.
And there's just no way he could have foreseen that happening.
No.
Yeah. Like that's the thing. Like we could be like, you know what? It's fucked up what's going outside. There's some people putting gum on our fucking door every day, and they're putting gum on everyone's door, and we want to stop this.
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, let's do it. And then everyone fucking donates money, and then we're like, well, what are we going to do now?
You're right. Now it's like we got too much money to solve a problem that now it sounds like it isn't even like, what do you do with $20 million in your account if there's really no place to put it because the problem isn't really there? So then it's like, holy shit, I got $20 million. You know,
man,
like,
you got to look into that shit so hard.
Yeah.
Like there's so many charities where like if you really dig deep into them,
it's like, a lot of them where it's like 5% goes to the charity, 95% goes to administration. So it's like you're just paying someone's salary.
There's some that sue other charities if they use like certain terms where it's like, come on, bro. Like that,
aren't we supposed to all be on the same team here?
Yes, exactly. Like I think like Free a Cure is just like is trademarked. I could be wrong, but like
I think you're right. Actually. Yeah.
And it's like if you use it, like, and it's like would it be? And I get to an extent, like if I don't know, like there needs some protection needed to make sure that people know that that's the reliable one. But I don't know.
It's tough.
It's a tough situation.
It's, charities have become big business, unfortunately.
That's the same thing. Yeah. Like, like people sharing, like, I mean, even at our company, like people sharing these GoFundMes and, it's always nice. Like it's always nice for us to do our part and, try to help out. But like, how much are some of our guys looking into this shit,
It's tough. And and it's like, and there's so many and you want to help as many people as you can, but then it's like, am I helping them? How do I help them? How do I like create a hierarchy of people to help? So then it's like when you really want to help, it's not like, well, you asked for something else last week, so it doesn't go anywhere. So it is like, it's a very tough balance.
It is.
Because you want to help, but it's like, am I actually helping or am I like just hurting the next cause, which might be in more dire straits?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. But all right, that was Kony 12, man. Wild times for sure. Happy 10-year anniversary to the Konys.
Young Harry definitely had it as his Facebook profile picture for a while.
Oh, that's a lock. That's a lock.
I think I had more Kony 2012 tweets than I do now.
There you go. But everybody, thank you for listening. That's it for today. We will be back tomorrow, actually. We have a nice little interview tomorrow. Yep. So enjoy that, and we'll see you then.